So peer observation versus manager observation. All right. Obviously, there's good and bad things about this. The first one here is exactly what it sounds like, allows observation to occur. So, usually there is no observations of TAs working by managers inside the education department. So this kind of breaks down that barrier and actually allows TAs or observations of TAs to occur. The next one, removes the effective filter. So the effective filter was an idea put forth by Stephen Krashen a long time ago now, back in the 80s. And it basically says that if students are not motivated or not confident or not anxious in the classroom, then learning cannot occur, right? So by taking the manager or that kind of line manager observation out of it, increases the TA's confidence, right? And obviously removes that anxiety and from the situation and makes a much more conducive learning environment. Like I said before, it encourages teamwork and collaboration. So all of your TAs will be working on this and working together. And as you go through different iterations of it, they'll each have a chance to work with different people in the team. And this is probably my favorite one here, is that it creates opportunity for peer-to-peer learning. Right? So your TAs work together with the same goals of, helping students achieve what they need to for the context that they're in. And they are the best proponent or understanding of what the students need to do that. Yeah. So by sharing knowledge between your TAs, you actually create a much more knowledgeable and productive team. And also, you can do this without having to invest any large amount of time or energy or money into finding knowledge or employing experts to do this, right? The knowledge and the expertise already exists inside your team. You're just finding a way for the entire team to benefit from that. And which brings us exactly to the last point. It doesn't matter how long the TA has been there or what their job is inside your team, everyone will have a chance to participate in this. There are some drawbacks to it. The first one being the person being observed doesn't really have a chance to get any feedback on their performance. Yeah? And as you'll see in a second, the reason for that is obviously they're there to teach really rather than to learn. For the business managers out there, the first couple of times you do this, it will increase your workload a little bit, right? As you move through it and you do it 2 or 3 times, that kind of goes away a little bit because the teams become more self-sufficient. But when you're setting it up and running it for the first few times, there is definitely an increased workload for the manager. And the last one is a monetary cost. Yeah, there is a slight cost for paying casual TAs to cover the observers during this process. So the keys to implementation. The first one here is probably the most important. Yeah. So inside your teams, you need to create mentoring relationships between your TAs. Now, what type of mentoring that is will depend on how you are applying the model, but the idea is that you build these sort of relationships so that TAs actually feel like learning from each other. Yeah? It's very important that the observee and observer have that kind of understanding between them. Like one of them here is there to learn, the other is there to teach. Next one is using self-reflection. As you're going through and planning the PD from this is the most important part of planning the PD. So they need to go away from their observation and reflect on their own practice and decide what it is that they want to focus on and improve throughout the rest of the process. And if this step doesn't happen here, it's a lot harder to find usefulness as you move through. And the last one there is creating learning communities. So this should not be done in isolation and then done and put away. You should keep a record of the learnings and the challenges that you face as you go through this, so that in future, as you do this with other people who are coming into the same situations, you can reflect on what you've done before and learn from the mistakes, celebrate the wins, and also allow this to extend beyond your own school. So maybe what you've done in your school is different to what happened in another school, so you'll be able to share this with TAs outside your own school. So the uses of the model. First one here is upskilling. And I say this by meaning using a more experienced TA with a less experienced TA in the same role. So you might have two TAs that are on prep classes in primary. One's been doing it for a couple of years, the other one has just come. So you might match those people together so that the newer TA can learn from the more experienced TA. The other one is cross-training. Okay? So you can also use this to broaden the range of skills that your TAs have. Yeah? So if you have a TA in secondary school that's been working in special ed, but you want them to start learning how to work in literacy and numeracy classes, then you might have them observe someone who's doing that type of class. Probably the key takeaway or the key difference from this to remember is that it is the person who is observing or doing the observation is the student, right? They are learning. Right? They are not there to teach the person or the TA that is actually running the class. They are there to learn from the TA that's running that class. Yeah? So it's kind of a role reversal of a normal observation where a manager will come in and use that chance to observe and then give feedback to the TA in the class. This one here, the TA that's actually observing is there to learn from the person that's running the class.